Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Mount & Blade Bannerlord and we're taking a look at the Napoleonic Warfare open source total conversion mod. Honestly, if you want to play a Mount & Blade Bannerlord set in the Napoleonic era, you know, flintlocks, cavalry, sabers, blah blah blah, Napoleon, all that sort of stuff. I don't know how better to describe that. This is currently the mod that gets you most of the way there. Some obvious things, it's still missing. Names in the game haven't been changed, so the characters and stuff aren't who they should be for the time period. I think that would be a huge positive change, and we'll talk about things that it still needs later. But really, it does a pretty good job of making it feel very Napoleonic, I guess I should say. So if you're imagining that the world of Calradia is just entering this time period, and so that's what it is. That's kind of what this feels like, as opposed to an actual conversion to our Napoleonic era. I've been playing it quite a bit for a couple days here now, and I've really been enjoying it and actually surprised by how stable it is. It hasn't crashed once, and that's probably the best performance I've gotten out of a total conversion mod for Bannerlord so far. So, like I said, there's still a lot of things that it hasn't done yet that I really hope that they do at some point in the future, but just going over some stuff that they have done. So a lot of the factions in the game have kind of been converted, soft conversions, over into some cultures from the Napoleonic War. So we've got the United Kingdom, which is Britannia, the Russian Empire, which I believe is Sturgia, Prussia, which is probably the Coexistence, the French Empire, which is just the Empire, and the Austrian Empire, which is the Vlandians. So there's a couple weird things about that. I think the French should have been the Vlandians, given the fact that their cultures are the most similar, just from one to one. And then the Empire, I probably would have made Russia. But whatever the case is, I hope at some point they plan on adding a custom map of Europe to the game and then putting them where they belong, so I'm not going to nitpick that too much. But so that's happened. A lot of new weapons and clothing and stuff like that have been added, and I'll show you a lot of that stuff. But probably the most impressive thing has been all of the different units that are added, because some of them are pretty awesome. So you can see that, like for the British, for example, from the United Kingdom, we've got a pretty awesome infantry troop tree, starting with their fencible unit, which is, you know, the real basic one, and then you can go down through the British line infantry old, which will take you to the British Guard, which is probably one of the best infantry units in the game. It's definitely one of the best infantry units in the game, but it might be the absolute best. Like, they're really good on the battlefield. Then we also have the British Light Infantry and the British Riflemen, and you can kind of go down that tree, the same thing, for just varying degrees. So you can see that we have the old ones, and they're going to have beards, and then you just have the regular ones, and they're going to look younger. Well, on the whole, for the first one, the end units look the same because they are the same. The Highlander Infantry is another one that I wish would be a little bit more specific. I wish you wouldn't go from Highland Infantry to the same three bottom units, but still pretty dang cool. So yeah, that's just one example of a troop tree that's been added. We also have, you know, obviously lots of French infantry. The cavalry units in the game are very varied and they're very cool, so I like that the French cavalry has quite a few different ones. They've got the Grenadier Cheval, the Cuirassiers, the Carabiners, the Dragoons, the Hussars, a lot of different troops in the game, and it's really cool, and they're, for the most part, very, very authentic. So it really scratches that itch for the Napoleonic era in Bannerlord. So just for clarity, this mod was uploaded by Darthkiller. From what I understand, it's a collaborative project. So just for a little bit of a high-level overview of what the mod is listed on the mod page, which you can find the link in the description. Some features of this one: it says all core nations are replaced with important Napoleonic factions, including France, the UK, Austria, Prussia, Russia, and the Ottomans. Uniforms stretching from the entire Napoleonic era with no historical consistency or accuracy to be promised. So that's what I said. They're very authentic, but they're kind of scattered from all over the place. And since the total range of the Napoleonic Wars is kind of a long period where you see a lot of different iterations of things, you'll see a lot of stuff smashed together that time-wise wouldn't have been, but I genuinely enjoy the effort that was put into these different uniforms, and so I kind of stick with it, so I'm not too upset about that. It says loosely based quality, at least have a somewhat close quality level of uniforms while having 4K textures to somewhat carry those uniforms. Simplified assets that don't use too many polygons with only a few exceptions. Authentic but not realistic animations for musket warfare. Pistols, muskets, rifles, swords, sabers based off the Napoleonic era, and a lot of these are just a loose resemblance. They've got different cavalry, infantry, guard, and skirmisher classes for each nation. This is a full open source mod, so all of these assets are available to be used to make other mods. All that they ask is that you credit them with with any of the assets that you use. For the most part, it works pretty dang well. I like everything that's being offered in here. There's a lot of great units. It is very fun for the combat. Now, this does get a little chaotic. So one of the things that I realized early on is that I like having commanders that I can just designate, like a cavalry commander, infantry commander, archer commander, all that sort of stuff. Archers being your basic infantry troops in the game. And that allows me to just sort of overview the battlefield from a high level and direct things as necessary there. And also, you know, engage in combat on my own. But in any case, the combat is quite fun. One feature that I genuinely enjoy is if you command your archers, which, like I said, are your infantry units in this game, to hold their fire early on. You can set them up in position and then wait until the enemy gets close and do a rolling volley of fire, which is just devastating. And that's a lot of fun. But the combat overall in the game is great. I love the way that the smoke really makes it impossible to see anything when you're up in close quarters shooting. The high casualty rate is something that is always very, very enjoyable. Basically, you get a lot more large armies in this than you do in vanilla or a lot of the other conversion mods, because A, the units are decently affordable, so you see a lot more people building up, you know, armies of a couple hundred units just for, you know, the average lord. But B, you lose so many troops because of the high casualties associated with getting shot and dying immediately, that it feels chaotic and fun. I love it a lot. Obviously, this battle wasn't all that exciting because we came into it with a pretty large army. We have almost 400 troops, and a lot of them are decently high tier against what was probably 100 low-level recruit-type troops. But you get the idea. The combat in this game is quite fun, and I have been enjoying it a lot. We didn't lose any units. Nice. I love there's a couple things that I do and don't like. A lot of basically all of your core factions that have been converted, they'll have the authentic uniforms for their faction, and I love that. The prevalence of female commanders and stuff is a little bit off-putting because over half of the commanders in the game are going to end up being female ones, and so it's a little weird seeing a Napoleonic era like general's dress uniform on a woman in here. It just takes you a little bit out of the history of it, but you know, what are you gonna do? I would like if they'd introduce some civilian clothing, because like I got married in this game and my wife came with like a British officer's dress uniform that she wears as her what would be armor in the base game, but they don't have any civilian clothing, so you either have to make her civilian clothing a military dress uniform or put her in some sort of a vanilla asset, and it just looks really weird meshing them together. The weapons and armor in this game are a highlight, in my opinion. Like I said, they're not all perfectly accurate, but they're close enough to make it, you know, not feel jarring or anything. So you've got, I mean, I just completed that battle, and you can see we picked up a bunch of stuff. Every faction has their own stuff, and it'll be, you know, identified by French or Austrian or Italian or whatever. I'm actually playing as a British person, but I'm wearing a bunch of other stuff because I've just been wearing whatever provides me with the best armor. So I've got an Austrian cavalry Rupenhelm, Austrian hussar equipment, a lordly French carabiner cuirass, fine officer's gloves, and fine Austrian officer's boots. So you can see I'm kind of all over the place with that. I have an officer's flintlock pistol and a heavy cavalry sword. There's my wife. Like I said, she came in a British officer's dress uniform, so she's a KGL officer, according to this, you know, of course. She's also equipped with a officer's flintlock pistol. She has a standard pattern iron officer sword that looks pretty good. Then a couple of the people that I've got with me, I've got this guy dressed up as just an infantry officer. He's one of the ones I have commanding half of my infantry units. We've got this guy, I've got him dressed up like a rifleman, and he's commanding the other half of my infantry units. I really wish they would distinguish in this game between riflemen and musketmen, so I could just dedicate a rifleman officer so I could have them do other things. Like if I want to command the rifleman to take a high position and sit there and snipe while the regular infantry skirmish or something like that, that would be great. An easy way is they could just distinguish them as infantry instead of as archers, and then just figure out how to make them still use ranged weapons, because if they were to do that, you'd be able to distinguish between infantry and archers, and it would make it, you know, easier to command on a macro level. But still pretty cool. I kind of just, you know, dressed him up like Sharp. So he's got a Cuirassier sword, which I believe was the closest one out of all of the ones that I could find to looking like Sharp sword. Then we have Borin Cow Thief. He's dressed up like a Dragoon. I have him as one of my cavalry commanders, pretty cool there. And we have Seanak Ironbelly. I realized I didn't have any Highlanders, so I made him sort of a Highland cavalry officer. Again, historical authenticity and everything can get a little mashed up in this, but it's a lot of fun if we're being honest. Like I said, it's not a perfect mod. It's still missing some obvious things. Like I said, a big one is the map. It would be much better if this was a map of Europe that we were working with, even if you have to figure out how to make the UK work in that, you know, with naval travel and everything. It would just make the mod feel a lot more immersive. In that same regard, a lot of surface level stuff, all of the names. So if you go into A, right here, they're still listed as their vanilla assets, but Britannia would be the UK. And then we have, instead of having the Union Jack here, even though it's in the game in multiple sources, because you have your troop flags, which will be, I think I could show you that. So you can see that it exists as banners that can be used for your troops. It just hasn't been added in like that. And then obviously we don't have actual British names. We're still just using the Britannian names, even though or whatever, you know, the vanilla names, I should say. For the most part, it doesn't bother me too much. Like I said, I'm just imagining it as Calradia in that period of their history. It's not perfect, though. Most of the people have been converted relatively well, but not all. You'll see some people will still be in vanilla assets, and they'll pop in there. You'll see some troops every once in a while. Your minor factions and mercenary clans oftentimes will still look vanilla, which is very off-putting. They'll show up looking like, you know, Roman soldiers tromping into your Napoleonic battlefield. Can be a little bit off-putting, but it's a really good work in progress, and it is a lot of fun to play. Like I said, it's quite stable. I've been playing it a lot, but it's not perfect. There are plenty of known issues on it, and they have a bunch of them listed on the mod page that I recommend checking out. As far as how to use this one, it's fairly simple and straightforward. For me, all I did was I started a new save, I uninstalled all of the old mods that I was using, and the only two ones that you have to have before using this mod are Harmony and the XML melee damage fix. So if you have both of those mods, and you can obviously just download them for free, then you can download the Napoleonic Warfare open source mod and you'll be able to play. That being said, they also recommend you download the Change Settlement Culture mod, Recruit Your Own Culture mod, and Customizable Troop Wages mod. And the reason why they recommend all three of these, A, Customizable Troop Wages allows you to set the troop wages lower, which makes it so you can have much larger armies running around, makes the battles a lot more realistic and immersive based on the time period, and also makes it so you can actually afford to run these large armies, even if you're not, you know, the empire of a vast chunk of land. So customizable troop wages is important for that. Recruit Your Own Culture makes it so that you see a lot less of, like, French people having British riflemen in their ranks and stuff like that. During this time period, that would be very weird, and it definitely makes the battles feel a lot less connected to how they authentically should have been, so that one's useful. And Change Settlement Culture just makes it so that when you're, so let's say, I mean, I'm part of Britannia, which is the UK here, you know, where Britannia starts up here. We've been at war mostly with the Vlandians and the French, so the Austrians and the French, and so we've taken some of their settlements. And you can see that the culture of Jalmaris there is the United Kingdom. So it's no longer an imperial settlement, just like Jacqueline over here that starts as a Austrian empire for the culture. It's been captured and everything, so now it's United Kingdom. So it makes it so you don't run into the cultural issues of using, you know, troops that don't belong there and having morale problems and stuff like that. So it's not super easy, straightforward, click and download and you're ready to go, but it's all pretty simple and straightforward. You don't have to do any file editing or anything like that, or replacement. You just have to download all the associated mods. And I will have the main mod linked in the description, and on the main mod page, they have all the other mods that they recommend for it linked there as well. So it's fairly simple and straightforward. Like I said, I like it a lot. The weapons, armor, troop types are all very good. The only thing that like I said, I still feel it definitely needs to be as good as possible is name replacements for all the settlements to make them actual places within the correct countries. Character name changes to obviously implement. So for the French, obviously I would like to see Napoleon as their leader. Things like that. And then even if you don't have enough historical people to fill out all the lords and ladies and stuff, just French names for the French people. A lot of Jacques and Louis and stuff like that. You know, we don't need to be seeing, you know, Ragenvad being the leader of Prussia. It's off-putting. I would like that changed. But other than that, it's honestly a lot of fun. I definitely recommend checking it out if you're a fan of the Napoleonic Era. Sorry for this video seeming weird and disjointed. It's kind of like I wanted to make the video, but I also want to keep playing the mod. And so I went into it super half-cocked, which is not the amount of cock that I know you guys are used to. You're used to it all. So with all that being said, hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.